Hey guys, back with my final Challenger Climb video, and it's the last since I managed to hit my goal. I even had around a 70% win rate over my last 30 games, and that's with me playing quite a bit of jungle, which I often consider to be one of my weaker roles. There's still a lot for me to improve on, for me to get back to my old form, but for now I'm pretty satisfied with the results. But before going further, I feel compelled to tell you about SkillCapped. I'm gonna be honest guys, climbing is just mastering the basic fundamentals. I think in episode 3 I literally said I'm too bad to proc mana flow band in lane without distracting myself. If I can hit Challenger, then you can definitely hit any goal you're after. And at SkillCapped, we have a course for every fundamental you can think of to help you master them and climb as fast as possible. And we're so confident that we offer a money-back guarantee if you don't improve with the service, which no other site dares to do. Anyways, back to business. At the start of the guide, I showed you a pretty decent win rate, but it would be misleading to think that everything was rainbows and sunshine throughout the climb. Something you should know is that I live stream most of these games to a couple of people, so my whole climb was fairly well documented. And one of those people was Martin, whom you may know from our Discord, my actual boss. Out of curiosity, he watched a ton of my games, and now he can no longer stand the idea that I've ever made a mentality guide before, since he's never seen anyone who tilts nearly as much as I do. He thinks I have no right to tell anyone how to untilt in this game, so it goes without saying that this is of course going to be a mentality guide. And as a quick side note, obviously that means there won't be any gameplay knowledge here, but that's what the VOD reviews and our other guides are for, right? So if you're not interested in this, go check those out. Now, it goes without saying that MOBAs are very likely the most frustrating game type of all. Playing with random people every game is a recipe for disaster. Yes, you have a ton of control over the outcome of the game, but unless you are significantly better than the elo that you're playing in, you are very often left at the mercy of how well your teammates perform. So of course, like all of you have to go through, there were certain events that really upset me, such as Acid Yone. This guy loaded into the game and said, "I'm on Acid XD," and proceeded to go 0-4 by 6 minutes. It's one thing to have a bad game, but when you're lamowing after every death, it can really get on the nerves of your teammates. In any case, there are a lot of games like that, which is everyone's experiences, but I was tilting a bit way too much. Generally, the thing that would frustrate me the most is when I felt like I had performed in the game, but I would lose due to someone else, right? Like this Jarvan game where my Kennen got completely obliterated in top, and the enemy Ribbon proceeded to 1v9 the game. That one game had me going from doing fairly well in most of my games to complete tilt and losing nearly 100 LP. These loss sprees obviously happen because I'm tilted, and you always play worse when you're tilted, even if you think you're not. It took Martin pointing it out to me to realize just how awful I was playing after every single one of those frustrating games. So I started trying some of the anti-tilt stuff that you'll generally find videos suggest, like take a break after every loss. None of that really worked for me, and that's because the reason I was tilting was actually kind of dumb. So I kind of want to share a story now in the hopes that it helps people who struggle with the tilt that I was going through. So as many of you know, I'm the low elo or fill guy at SkillCapped, and that's because before I started working with them, I was an elo booster. Yes, ranked integrity, my bad. The reason I was able to start working so much with SkillCapped is because I proved to them that I could elo boost any role to Challenger whenever I wanted. I wasn't always able to do that though. The reason I had to learn that skill is because there was a slight problem with boosting. I'm not going to go too into it, but unless you were a famous player or you had very good connections, it was very hard to make a living wage off boosting. The only other way to do so, which is what I did, was Challenger boosts. Of course, these were fairly scarce. People wanted them because they paid the most money, which meant I had to take every one I possibly could get my hands on. Unfortunately for me though, the whole point of boosting is for the customer to brag to their friends about the rank they just got, as if that means anything. So what ended up happening is that I very often had to play the role that the customer wanted, sometimes even the champions, which was very annoying. There's a reason that those X to Challenger series you see streamers or YouTubers do are so popular. It's kind of interesting to see someone who mains one role go through and realize all of the struggles that another role goes through. It's not easy to just swap between two very different roles like ADC to jungle, right? And obviously, at the start of me having to do all these different roles to Challenger, I was awful at it at first. It took me a long time to develop the skill to carry on every different role. At first, I was just okay enough to play most of the roles at a Challenger level and not int. I could be stable, but I couldn't consistently carry the games, which is what you need to do for boosting. So what this means is that I went through what almost all of you go through every single day. If you can't hard carry the game, and the game is filled with people all of around the same skill level, then League will generally gravitate towards making the team with the worst performer lose, rather than the team with the better performer winning. I think that's a sentiment that is very often shared on social media. So here's where the very tilting thing comes in. Take a game where you're playing fairly well, such as this Jarvan game for me. You lose because your teammates didn't perform for whatever reason. Now, if you think very much like me, you begin to realize not only have you not won any points, but you've lost some. So to get to where you feel like you should have been after your performance, you have to win a game to get back the LP that you lost, and then another to get to where you should have been after your good game. That is a 2-hour time commitment through queue times, dodging, the game, etc., and that's only if you win both of those games. And if you lose, then you begin a very downward spiral that's going to take forever to come back from, right? Now, if you add elo boosting into that mix, there's just one tiny extra layer of tilt that gets added to that mindset. You see, when things were going well and I was going up in LP and winning, I got to purchase the Taco Bell $5 box most nights to satisfy my hunger. But if I was losing, well, I didn't get to eat. And if I let myself get into a tilt spree of losses, I would starve for a week or even 2 sometimes when it got really bad. Probably not what you were expecting from a SkillCapped video. But now that we've returned from that crazy tangent, let's tie that into why I was tilting so hard and how it can maybe help you with your own frustrations. You see, I inadvertently created a challenge for myself where I had to reach a certain goal that I wasn't sure I'd be capable of doing, and I had a limited time frame to do so, aka boosting. What this means is that when I encountered players such as this Riven, I got very frustrated. During this game, she was incredibly angry at me the whole time, as people generally are towards junglers, so she ended up selling all her items in a very, very winnable game. What's more is that this was actually the final game I needed to hit Challenger at the time. Unfortunately, the loss triggered some literal trauma from times where I used to starve because of other ego top laners who refused to play weak side. I went from being 1 game away from finishing to dropping over 200 LP and it taking me about 40 more games to actually finish my challenge. But there's definitely a plus side to all of this. I was only tilting because of the self-imposed challenge that made me feel like I was boosting again. When I'm playing normally though, just for fun and learning, I don't tilt anywhere close to this at all, even when I get really disgusting teammates. And that's because after any frustrating game that I play, I just tell myself, could be worse, could be starving. And to me, that instantly snaps me out of most of my tilt now. The idea is that after a frustrating game, you're obviously still going to be thinking about it. Your mind will linger well into the next game on what happened. But by just commenting to yourself something stupid and absurd, I swear it takes your mind off the loss instantly. Keep in mind that the more absurd and humorous the comment you make to yourself, the better. Also, it being personal to you is probably best. You can use the glad I'm not starving bit, but it's probably just really effective for myself because now I just find the whole situation funny looking back on it. If you've got an experience like that you find humorous, I would suggest trying that. I did tell 2 of my real life friends that I do this, and they've told me they've tried it and it helps them a lot, so I don't know, it might work for you. Of course, they're similar to me, so probably just a personality type thing. Honestly, I don't know. At the end of the day, if this only helps 2 people who watch this guide and wastes everyone else's time, that's good enough for me. Alright, that's definitely a wrap on this video. I know it was a weird one, but hope you enjoyed it at the very least. Check out the site for more content regarding this climb or anything else really. But for now, see you later.